The Security Cabinet has issued a veiled warning of pending IDF strikes against Iranian and Hamas targets. Meeting after the latest deadly terrorist attack in Judea and Samaria, the Security Cabinet ordered the IDF to strike at the terrorists and whoever dispatches them. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovich.
Details of Security Cabinet meetings are withheld, but the Prime Minister's office released a statement after the meeting saying that the Security Cabinet authorized Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant to act against those responsible for the wave of terror. Netanyahu and Gallant have both said in recent days that the current terror wave is directly linked to growing military tensions with Tehran, with Iran exploiting the Israel-Palestinian conflict by strengthening Hamas to open a new front against Israel. National Security Advisor Tzachi Hanegbi said that Tehran is unable to respond directly from Syria or from Iran. Instead, it finances and arms the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas to act against Israel. In the aftermath of Monday's attack, Netanyahu and Gallant visited the site of the South Hebron attack and warned that Iran and its proxies were behind the terror wave and would be made to pay. Shortly after the Security Cabinet meeting, quotes were leaked to the Hebrew media of an angry exchange between National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. According to the leaks, Ben-Gvir is demanding lockdowns and checkpoints throughout Judea and Samaria, as well as targeted assassinations and rescinding of work permits from Palestinian laborers. Gallant reportedly responded, "There is a danger of friction, and you have to pay attention to it. It used to be a few dozen terrorists, and today it's already hundreds." Gallant reportedly told the cabinet that violent events have a tendency to snowball.
Israeli troops in Hebron today to prepare to demolish the homes of two Palestinians accused of killing Batsheva Negri on Monday. Israeli security forces arrested two men suspected of carrying out the attack yesterday, and ILTV's William Sharon has more.
Troops went into Hebron in the pre-dawn hours to take measurements of the unnamed suspects' homes in preparation for their expected demolition. Last night, the border police released a video of the night's operation that resulted in the capture of two terrorists. The suspects were arrested without resistance and transferred for further investigation. The border police commander said every terrorist should know that we will find them very quickly.
מרגע שקרה הפיגוע, כל כוחות החטיבה וכל כוחות הביטחון הגיעו בצורה הכי מהירה. הוטל כתר על העיר חברון ועל כפרים סמוכים, ובעצם ביצענו מרדף אחר המחבלים, מרדף שנמשך עד אתמול בלילה, בו הצלחנו ללכוד את שני המחבלים ולמצוא את הנשק שהם ביצעו את הפיגוע.
The IDF is still intensively searching Nablus area for the terrorist gunmen who murdered two Israelis, father and son, on Saturday in Hawara.
Iran has unveiled a new long-range military drone set capable of traveling 2,000 kilometers with a heavy payload. The new UAV was unveiled amid threat that it will be used against Israel. And more from ILTV's Steve Leibovich.
Iran is once again threatening to destroy the state of Israel. The latest bluster came during the unveiling of its new Mohajer-10 drone, with a claimed flight range of 2,000 kilometers and ability to reach an altitude of 7,000 meters. Tehran claims that the drone is able to go on sorties of up to 24 hours straight and carry a payload weighing up to 300 kilo. The drone carries a threatening inscription in Hebrew and Persian, "Prepare the shelters." The Iranian Revolutionary Guard published an edited photo of the Iranian drone over Israel with the words, "Prepare for a trip to the Stone Age." Iranian drones have been in the spotlight because Iran supplies Russia with its Shahed 136 model kamikaze drones.
کشور ما رو به نحوی این کاری که در صنایع نظامی و دفاعی انجام شده قرار داده که امروز بسیاری از کشورهای منطقه و دنیا نگاهشون به ما کاملا عوض شده.
Iran's drones have their origins in the 1980s, but in recent years they've been able to arm the drones and extend their range and abilities. Iranian drones have often been unveiled in the past with claims of new capabilities, such as optics, radar, communications, and missile systems. Many of them have not lived up to the claims.
And now the violence in the Arab community surges, breaking all-time records. And in the wake of the tragic murder of the CEO of the Tira municipality, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is drawing a firm line against the horrifying crimes.
רצח של מנכ"ל עיריית טירה זה חציית קו אדום. הרציחות האלה, ארגוני הפשע, הפרוטקשן, הניסיון להשתלט על עיריות, זה דבר שאנחנו לא יכולים להרשות לעצמנו. אנחנו נפעיל את כל האמצעים, כולל השב"כ, כולל המשטרה, כל האמצעים, כדי לנצח את הפשיעה הזאת.
4 individuals were tragically killed in the northern town of Abu Snan on Tuesday. This disturbing event has shattered the already record-high homicide numbers set over the past years. One of the victims was identified as former border police officer Ghazi Saab, also a mayoral candidate in the community's upcoming municipal elections. Magen David Adom forces arrived on the scene and performed CPR on the victims, but they could not be revived and were declared dead. The horrifying mass shooting occurred shortly after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urged the involvement of the Shin Bet in tackling the escalating violent crime within the Arab community. The PMO, in response to these unsettling events, announced the formation of a ministerial panel which is set to convene to address this violence. The death Monday brought the number of fatalities linked to criminal violence in the Arab community to 156 since the start of the year, mostly in shootings. During the same time frame last year, 68 were killed. Later in the evening, President Yitzhak Herzog weighed in on the incident, tweeting, "Every citizen of the Arab society in Israel lives today in terrible fear, heavy mourning, and terrible anxieties. Each of the murdered is a world to his family and loved ones," the president said. "This is an emergency that requires determined measures by the state to eradicate crime and violence and prevent the loss of life. My condolences to the grieving families from the last few days, from Tira to Abu Snan." The Israeli police is currently investigating. Yes, and now with us to elaborate on the surging violence in the Arab community, which seems to break all-time records every year, is former head of the military's prosecution office for Judea and Samaria, Lieutenant Colonel Reserves and attorney Maurice Hirsch. Maurice, the recent killings were of a former police border officer and mayoral candidate. Local officials are not safe unless criminal organizations targeting high-profile individuals in the community is a whole different level. Is there no deterrence at all?
Unfortunately, the problems that we're seeing today are really the function of years of inaction by Israel's government from a whole different slew of different aspects. First and foremost, organized crime in Israel is something which has become more and more over the years a real problem. Whilst organized crime has developed and grown, Israel's capabilities and direction hasn't grown in accordance. Most other countries in the world have special, dedicated, organized crime task force and even authorities that deal solely with those issues. Unfortunately, Israel just hasn't kept up the pace with that. On the other hand, what we're also seeing is years of really neglect of specifically the Arab population, of law enforcement in general in the Arab population, and that's something now which we're paying a very, very high price for.
Maurice, are people in the Arab community really walking scared through the streets?
I think there is not a small level of really fear among the Arab population, not from the Jewish population, but from this fear of really the organized crime, the violent crime, the understanding that these organized crime organizations have lost any type of limitations. They don't see anything as a deterrent, and they are willing to murder people in the streets openly, and they don't necessarily care who they murder. Whilst they may try to target specific individuals, if they kill innocent bystanders, that doesn't seem to be too much of a problem for them, as we've seen also this year. Every time, or almost every time, that some person has been targeted, whether it be public officials or rival gangs, there have been innocent people who have been dragged in and murdered in the process. So I think, yes, there is a level of fear among the population. It's unfortunately not something we're seeing in the Arab leadership. The Arab leadership should really be coming in and begging the Israeli police forces to come in, set up police stations, set up more law enforcement agencies within the communities, but they still reject, unfortunately, those moves, seeing it more as a sign of Israeli sovereignty rather than a desperate need to ensure law and order also in the Israeli Arab towns and villages.
And we're definitely seeing internal wars inside of the community. And as you mentioned, years of neglect and discrimination. But Prime Minister Netanyahu now announced the use of all means, including the Shin Bet, to fight the violence. Is it too little, too late? What's the plan there exactly?
So I think the understanding needs to be that a change needs to happen. Obviously, setting up a dedicated task force within the police, together with other security agencies. I think the Shabak and bringing in the Shabak is an interesting development, but I don't think we're necessarily going to see immediate results from that. But it's something which needs to change in the general approach. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a function of discrimination, but rather of neglect and of the understanding that if the Arab communities do not want and aren't willing to accept the authority of the law enforcement agencies, well, then we won't force it upon them. That's something which needs to change. This is something which, for Israel's security, for the security of all of our citizens, including our Israeli Arab citizens, we need to ensure that the law is enforced, whether the leadership of those communities like it or not.
Of course. Now, speaking of too little, too late, Maurice, right now it's inside of the Arab community. If it continues like that, do you see it spreading?
Without question. There's no way that you can continue on allowing organized crime to function and to develop and to grow and to use violent means and expect that it only be limited to the Arab population. We've seen already organized crime also in the Jewish sections of the country, Jewish organized crime organizations doing the same things and acting in the same way. Again, this is something which needs to be created and set up, really a substantial force that will fight organized crime, irrelevant as to whether the different actors are Israeli Arabs or Israeli Jews. The target needs to be organized crime for the benefit of the entire Israeli population.
There's a lot of work to do here. Very strong message, Maurice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visionary talks in Jerusalem signal a dynamic partnership poised to reshape technology, innovation, and tourism landscapes. Here's more to Adams' trip to Israel by ILTV's William Sharon.
I want to welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're a great friend of Israel.
Yes.
You live in a city that is the intellectual, cultural, financial hub of the world.
Yes.
And we're sort of another hub. And I think if we combine the hubs together, we'll do better for everyone.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem on Tuesday. The discussion centered on the potential for collaboration between New York City and Israel, particularly within the realms of technology, innovation, and tourism. Mayor Adams warmly conveyed his administration an affinity for the Jewish state, which prompted a gracious response from Prime Minister Netanyahu, lauded Adams as a friend of Israel. Following their meeting, both leaders attended the Futi expedition hosted by Alpha Farms, a showcase of pioneering food and innovation endeavors in Israel. The event dedicated to advancing alternative protein sources, underscoring Israel's leading role in the domain. Notably, Israel ranks second only to the United States in terms of private investment in alternative proteins. During the visit, they both sampled a diverse array of food products ranging from cultured steak to vegan honey, as well as plantain-based kebabs and burgers. Earlier in the day, Mayor Adams took a break from his packed schedule to visit Jerusalem's historic Old City and pay his respects at the Western Wall. This after meeting Jerusalem Mayor Moshe Leon, Foreign Minister Eli Cohen, and spiritual leaders on the first day of his trip.
Right now, we're honored to introduce a new book named My Israel, 70 Faces of the Land, which is, as the authors call it, a work of love, bringing forward 70 essays by extraordinary Israeli individuals, from educator and Israel Prize winner Miriam Perez to master mentalist Lior Sushard. And they're with me in studio right now, Chemi Perez at Ilan Greenfield. Really honored to have you here, guys. Very honored.
Our pleasure.
So, Chemi, I'd like to start with you. You're a successful entrepreneur turned author, as I may say. You have our book here, My Israel, 70 Faces of the Land. Why was it so important to you to really take the 70 stories of extraordinary Israeli individuals and really put it into a book?
So I met Benny Lau Rabbi Ben Ilan, who started a project which is called 929, which is reading the Bible one chapter at a day. And through the reading, I noticed that names of places and names of people remain the same through centuries. And I thought to myself, why not putting this idea together where people from Israel will talk about their Israel, and in that way we can maybe present Israel in a way that was never presented before. And initially we thought about 70 individuals, half of them are men and half are women, to be very inclusive and diversified, and through their eyes get a view of what Israel is today. That was the basic idea. Then I turned to Ilan, who is a friend of mine since we were 6 years old, and has a publishing house. And he thought it's a great idea. And we started to work on this together for 3 years.
So really, before we started talking, before the interview, Ilan said he wants to say something about you as a child. That was interesting. What can you tell us about Chemi, a 6-year-old Chemi?
Chemi and I were very different. Chemi was probably always the best student.
I'm the good-looking, he's the ugly.
He was always the best student. I wasn't. But we had a lot of fun together as kids. We did a lot of horseback riding.
Yeah.
We went swimming together. We went to the beach. I think it's a bond that sometimes really, throughout the years, with political differences, with all kinds of differences, it's a certain bond that stays there. And when we started talking about the book, at least for me, it was a very important stage. You know, a publisher publishes many books every year, and it was suddenly bringing back something also from youth till today, and Chemi has accomplished a lot in his life, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's investment, whether it's philanthropy, and to join forces together to show what really Israel is. Because I think the importance, and especially, and it's not something that we had planned, but when you look at the timing of the book, of when it came out, it is, I think, a crucial tool to show that no matter if you're religious, if you're not religious, if you're on the right wing, left wing, Haredi, Arab, Jew, it makes no difference. We have one country, we have an amazing country that has accomplished something that almost no other country in the world has accomplished. And I think that this is the message that we want to convey here. Regardless of your views, regardless of your religion, we want to make sure that Israel stays forever as one of the leaders of the world. And I think that's something that I think we've accomplished it in this book when you read all these stories.
Really beautiful message. Now, Ilan, you have here an author, son of obviously Shimon Perez, the legendary Shimon Perez, may his memory be a blessing, and also really the stories of 70 prominent figures. Sounds like an amazing recipe, isn't it, for success?
I think it is an amazing recipe, but I'll say Chemi's father was not only a prime minister, he was the father of Chemi. And when I used to sleep over, every time, it was an amazing... Chemi's father always was willing to discuss with me anything. As a kid, he always gave me the same level, meaning he wasn't above. He always talked to you straight in the eye, looked you straight in the eye and talked straight in the eye, and we didn't agree on many things. And I think the recipe here is definitely crucial. And I think when we sat down on the names, trying to think of them, you know, we put together a whole list of names and we tried to figure out. How did it really go,
the choice of the names? I mean, these are figures that every Israeli and I can say maybe every Jewish person in the world knows, many of them, most of them.
Many of them are well known, some of them are not well known. Some of them are silent heroes. You know, we did not choose only celebrities. We specifically did not want to go to politicians. We wanted to take just Israelis who have done great things in this country, and each one of them has their location that they wanted to say, this is the window that I want foreigners to see Israel through.
That's really nice. Now, Chemi, you're obviously, as we said before, your father, Prime Minister, President Shimon Peres of blessed memory. Might you dare think of what he would say about the situation here, the divisive situation here in Israel between the people?
I think that above everything, he loved Israel, he loved the country, he loved the people, he believed in the people. And I think that he would see this book and he would say that this is exactly what we need. We need to gather the people and talk about our shared values, our shared journey, our shared faith at the end of the day. And what we try to do in the book is actually bring people from all walks of life in Israel, from right, left, men, women, young, old, from different areas. And I think that that was the message maybe for today's discussion. Try to unify our forces, try to do things on a basis of broad agreement, and do not try to force anything on each other. Sometimes in politics, you don't have to reach broad agreement. Majority is enough, and it's okay, whether it's right or left, as long as you have the rules in place of the three branches, which are independent, with checks and balances. And when you have to go through each one of them to get an approval to move forward, then you can do things which are not on a broad agreement. But you cannot change the rule of games if you don't have broad agreement. And I think he would probably strive for a unity government to leave the extremists out of the game and try to reach an understanding by the majority.
Where can we find the book? Where can we buy it from?
The book can be found in better bookstores around the world, certainly around Israel and in North America. And you can go on to Amazon and find it. It's available. And we hope that all of you buy the book, enjoy it, and come join us on your next visit in Israel and visit many of these locations that are mentioned in the book.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In a no less than historic deal, Bayern Munich has finalized the deal for Maccabi Tel Aviv's goalkeeper Miriam Perez, first shared by prominent Italian sports journalist Fabrizio Romano. Bayern Munich has finalized a €5 million deal with Maccabi Tel Aviv for Perez. The goalkeeper, also holding a German passport, is anticipated to commit for 5 years until 2028. And after playing one last game with Maccabi Tel Aviv coming Thursday, he will undergo medical examinations in Munich. The powerhouse and renowned German champions have undertaken an extensive search for a goalkeeper to fill the void left by Manuel Neuer's skiing accident-induced leg injury last December. Neuer is projected to be sidelined for approximately 2 more months. The Bavarians first saw Perez excelling in the group stage of the U21 European Championship, stopping 2 penalties against Germany youth team, granting him the title of Man of the Match. Perez will initially be a backup to Sven Ulrich and will not inherit the first goalkeeper vest of Neuer, who should, as mentioned, return to the courts in the coming months. However, Perez will initially get opportunities in the various cup games, and from there, the sky is the limit.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple.